Hi, trauma warriors. So today I wanted to address just some top five books that have had a powerful impact on my life. So, as many of you know, I talk about on the Healing Place podcast. Um, my first 22 years of life were filled with horrific trauma, from bank robberies and murder to abuse, from physical abuse, sexual abuse. Um, and yeah, so once I found my way onto the healing path, I started to fill my, as I called it, my coping skills toolbox with all kinds of ways to help myself stay in a state of calm and tranquility. And one of the things that I utilized was research, research, research. And so these books that I'm about to share with you had a very powerful impact on my life and helped guide me along that healing journey, along with um, 4 years of EMDR therapy. I did 98 sessions. So that was also very powerful, life-altering, really. But there's also so many other therapies. I was doing talk therapy as well. Prior to the EMDR, I've done tapping, Ho'oponopono Hawaiian healing technique. Mindfulness is a very powerful practice that I utilize almost every day, along with the whole other list that will be in my book. So once I finish it, I'm at 90%. I just need to get that last 10% done. So, all right, so let me go down here and do my share button, and I'm going to pop over here. And all right, so when I do my speeches and I give presentations, one of the things that I talk about at the end are these resources that I've used. And so while I have quite a few listed here, I think 12 different books, 11 or 12, I'm going to talk about the top five that truly had a powerful impact in my life. Just so if you haven't read them, that perhaps you can get one from the library or purchase one. And check it out. So The Body Keeps the Scores by Bessel van der Kolk. Very powerful podcast guests bring it up all the time. Yeah, that was one of those aha moments when I realized the impact trauma had on my physical being. I knew I had panic attacks, obviously, because I battled them for almost 25 years. Now I am panic attack free, which is wonderful. But knowing that there was this body of research that I didn't know about, uh, explaining in layman's terms what had happened during those traumatic events and how I stored that trauma in my body and brain, and what needed to happen to release that. So very, very powerful. And again, popular book in the trauma recovery and healing arena. Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself by Dr. Joe Dispenza. Someone that I love very, very much is on a healing journey themselves, and sent me a text the other day that this person was sitting on the top of a mountain and happened to be reading, took a screenshot of this person reading this book. And I just thought it was so amazingly cool, because one's sitting on top of a mountain reading this book. And again, one of these books that just had, if I showed you the inside of my book, it's highlighted and starred and exclamation points, and because there's so many things in this book that really opened my eyes to habitual patterns, and how I had created these habitual patterns through no fault of my own. I mean, none of us who have experienced trauma are creating these unhealthy habits. We're doing it to help ourselves. We don't know another way, and so we're doing whatever we can to get ourselves through. And that's what I had done. And now I'm extremely forgiving with myself, and looking back and saying, I did what I knew how to do to survive. But it was hurting me. It wasn't I didn't have healthy coping skills. So breaking the habit of being yourself was very powerful in helping to change those habitual patterns. So again, another great, great read. The Miracle of Mindfulness, and I will not try to say, I think, Vietnamese monk name, but what a very powerful, beautiful book on mindfulness practices. As a matter of fact, I don't know why, but there's a particular passage in this book where he talks about just doing the dishes and being in that moment with the dish and the soap and the sponge or whatever it was he was using. And I have found when I'm in the kitchen and my mind is racing, I have to do this, I podcast interviews, and I need to finish this book, and you know, all the things that I need to be doing. And I will pause and remember that passage and just be in that moment with the dishes and loading the dishwasher and being safe and calm in the moment. Very powerful stuff for healing. Another one is Getting Past Your Past by Dr. Francine Shapiro, who was the founder of EMDR therapy, which is EMDR, for those who don't know, is eye movement desensitization and reprocessing. Founded by Dr. Shapiro, working with soldiers returning from war with PTSD diagnoses. And I myself have a complex PTSD diagnosis, CPTSD, which is post-traumatic stress disorder. And this book explains not only the history of EMDR and how it was implemented, but how it works and why it works. And again, EMDR, life-altering. It's not for everybody. There's some call it an invasive because I had to go back into my traumas for brief moments, and then body memories would come up, and I sobbed a lot during those 98 sessions. But each time I left a session, I felt just a little more empowered, a little more healed. So again, it worked for me. But there's so many other amazing, and again, my podcast guests have talked about it a lot. So listen into those shows, because there's an internal family system, IFS. Gosh, I'm trying to think of, obviously EFT, emotional freedom technique. I'm drawing a blank on some of the others, but again, great healing avenues available to help guide you along. So, and then one more that was really, really powerful for me was The Journey from Abandonment to Healing by Susan Anderson. And that for me was in struggling with my mom's addiction and my relationship with my parents through my abuse. My dad was physically abusive to me for my first 10 years until he sought counseling. And then my mom was an alcoholic, or is an alcoholic still to this day. She's 84 years old. And she just celebrated 1 year sober in July, which she stopped drinking at 83. And now we have this beautiful relationship, and I'm going to get teary-eyed. I'm starting to get choked up talking about it. I'm so proud of her. But I just think, never give up. And she is a great example of not giving up. So this book, again, had a very powerful impact on me as far as really coming to a place of forgiveness, particularly with my mom. And yeah, again, she's my hero for facing her own demons and her own trauma history from her childhood, and finally sharing with me things that I didn't know she had gone through. And not that I'm excusing her behavior in any way for how my childhood was with her, but I have a better understanding now. So there you go. My top 5 from my resources list for you to check out. All right. As I say on the podcast, until next time, be gentle with yourself. Alrighty. Ooh, and a PS. So the podcast has now been downloaded in 70 countries, which is super cool. Available on YouTube. I'm trying to grow my YouTube channel. So if you could share videos, find your favorite, let people know about it, and ask friends to subscribe or subscribe yourself if you haven't. But also available on audio format in Pandora, iTunes, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Blueberry, Deezer, and other audio outlets. And again, just, help people find this healing space. It's just incredible interviews with people from across the world. So, all right. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.